Parkhead, Glasgow, where Celtic entertain a revitalised Rangers. Peter Brackley reports.
It's 7 years since the magnificent Ibrox Stadium boasted a Scottish Championship-winning side. The full house at Ibrox is a splendid sight, and after Rangers' best start to a season for a decade, the crowds are flocking back. 28,000 for the match with Aberdeen, 35,000 for a stormy affair last Saturday against Hearts. And manager Jock Wallace is the first to emphasise the significance to Scottish football of a successful Rangers team.
I think the term new firm was created by Fergie and Jim McLean to get the press up that way, but there's no way in the world can they get the same kind of fans as us, the same amount of fans as us. It just doesn't happen. You know, when Rangers and Celtic are playing well, we'll take the crowds, but we take the travelling crowds as well, which is more important as far as the provincial clubs are concerned. We had 35,000 here last week, and if we beat Celtic on Saturday, we'll be here again next week against St Mirren.
It was back in 1976 that a jubilant Jock Wallace led Rangers to his first treble for the club. The question now, can the highly promising youngsters of the current team emulate the kind of success the side of 76 enjoyed against Celtic?
Young to McLean. Intelligent return ball to Young. Arlene going in with McDonald. McLean unmarked at the far side. Edmondson. The request by Young. Here's McDonald. Great ball.
The 1-0 League Cup final win over Celtic of 9 years ago provided the springboard to the treble. But Rangers will find Celtic as resolute as ever today, particularly with Maurice Johnston in such menacing mood. 6 goals from 3 matches suggests he's recapturing his international form.
As far as I'm concerned, you've never lived or died in football. You've been beaten by Celtic in a final until you beat them in a final. So now suffer both deaths and suffer both ways of living. And it's a great excitement. And I have no visions of this moment at a treble. I just want to get this team on a winning reign. We're still in the League Cup. We're obviously leading the league, so let's keep it that way for a few weeks yet.
Jock Wallace there, one of the managers I'd love to have played for, Saint, because whether you were getting a racking or praise, you wouldn't have known what he was talking about.
Well, listen, you do know that your team are playing the Rangers in the Skull Cup, the quarter.
I know, they beat Dundee, didn't they?
Yes, super result.
So they're playing at home.
Yeah, have you got a message for Big Jock?
Big Jock, I'm afraid the old Ackies, you know, they're going very well. It is at Hamilton, isn't it?
No, it's at Motherwell because he couldn't take the crowd at the Ackies. It's been renovated.
His turnstile's rusted up again, is it? Jock, you're in trouble.
You don't bother turning up Rangers for that one. Right, from Scotland to...
Scotland now, Archie McPherson awaits us in our Glasgow studio. Looking forward, no doubt, Archie, to the first of the old firm clashes between Celtic and Rangers.
Not half, Bob. The fact that Rangers have had the best start to the season in a decade is the principal reason 67,000 people will be at Celtic Park this afternoon. The masses who follow Rangers think the momentum can be maintained, while Celtic, who remain favourites, are confident they can bring the run to a crashing halt. It's always a day of great passion, and certainly not for sissies, but the game will also be blessed by 2 of the best wingers in European football. Now, as the unpaid secretary of the Society for the Preservation of Wingers, let me unashamedly show you evidence of that, but so as not to encourage the view that they are simply fan dancers. Just watch how Celtic's Davy Probert can strike a ball.
If he really connects, this could be very interesting. There's Probert, and he scored! And only twice in the history of the Scottish Cup have goals been scored direct from a free kick. Is this a bit of history? It is! David Probert!
And he's playing out of his skin at the moment. Rangers' MI5 will have him well shadowed. On the other side, there's the other Davy, Cooper by name, Super Coop by legend, a key man in Jock Stein's international squad. Cooper has sometimes borne the responsibility of inspiring stodgy Rangers sides and doing it with finesse, like this superb solo effort against Celtic in the Drybrook Cup several seasons ago. One-footed he may be, but what a foot. A marvellous striker of the dead ball too. And anything that he can do, Davy Cooper certainly is like Probert. Just have a look at this one. Certainly brilliantly struck in the cup final against Dundee United, a League Cup, and giving the winning goal to Rangers eventually, like this.
Cooper shaping to take this. I try and chip it in, and he does, he scored! Cooper equalises for Rangers.
Well, I just hope they get the chance to show their skills today. Finally, Bob, I hope you get the tartan scarf out and get along to Lord's tomorrow, where the Scots village team Fruchi is playing in the final of the British Village Cricket Championship against an English side. Now, if the Scots win, Bob, does that mean the English have to burn another set of bales?
Oh, Archie, don't ask me that. I do know Fruchi, actually. I've been on holiday there once, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Many times ago. Thanks very much to you. Well, Celtic Rangers games always provoke so many memories, and talking of nostalgia...
Disaster inquiry, who was seeing his first Old Firm match. He must have been impressed with the game and the fans. And although this has not been a summer to remember, get straight to the big match. First place Rangers playing second top Celtic in the opening Old Firm game of this brand new season. A dull grey day in the city, but as Jock Brown picks up the story just before the start, no change. Kenny Dalglish is struggling with a knee injury, but is hopeful of being fit by the end of this week. And Gordon Strachan limped off before the end of yesterday's Manchester United win at Nottingham with a toe injury, but I understand this is purely a precautionary measure and he should also be available. And we'll take a break here.
And they got just the start they were looking for. Nicholas crossing for Mark Hughes to score his 6th goal in 9 appearances for his country. The Welsh continued to attack, and it was Hughes again who nearly made the most of a failure to clear the ball properly. The acrobatics, though, this time in vain. In the second half, Hughes continued much where he'd left off, but Rush was unable to apply the finishing touch. Scotland struggled to level and were rewarded with a penalty for handball. Substitute Davy Cooper struck the equaliser for Scotland. The final score then, Wales 1, Scotland 1. So that result means that Scotland go top on goal difference, but it's still not certain who'll go to Mexico. Spain have a game in hand.
The English all over the country have paid warm tribute to Scotland's favourite manager, Jock Stein, who died last night. Mr. Stein had a heart attack after watching his team draw against Wales in a crucial World Cup qualifier. England manager Bobby Robson said a night of triumph has been turned into disaster.
As emergency medical equipment was being rushed to the ground minutes after Jock Stein's collapse, hundreds of Scottish fans gathered in silence outside the grandstand for news of his condition. Within half an hour, the news that he was dead came through, and what should have been Scottish joy turned to bitter grief. Forlorn supporters waited on outside for Jock Stein's body to leave the ground. As the ambulance passed, police officers stood to attention and saluted. Meanwhile, the city centre streets the Scots said they'd paint red if they got through the World Cup round were almost deserted. Instead, the fans gathered to remember Jock Stein.
Many of us cried tonight after we heard the news of our main man.
I'm quite sure that every fan standing here tonight would have wished Scotland to get put out the World Cup, and Mr. Stein's still with us.
He's a legend in his own time. He'll remain a legend in Scottish football, as far as I'm concerned. A true legend.
Fans' tributes to Jock Stein, who died last night.
Giving way to sorrow at the tragic loss of Jock Stein. Tonight we look back on the career of football's big man, and Ernie Walker, Billy McNeil and Bertie Auld add their tributes to those that have poured in all day.
Also tonight will be...
Collapse and death of Scotland's football manager Jock Stein has been blamed on a row with a photographer. Welsh team manager Mike England said that the photographer had been bothering Jock for most of the game. He said that Jock had asked the photographer to move several times as he was blocking his view of the game, but he refused. In the end, said the Welsh manager, Jock jumped up and moved him himself. Jock then held his chest. I knew then he had had a heart attack, added Mr. England. Meanwhile, the South Glamorgan coroner, Dr. Lawrence Adicott, will not be holding an inquest into the death of the Scottish manager. A spokesman for the coroner said the Scottish team doctor, Stuart Hillis, had certified that Mr. Stein had died due to natural causes, and therefore there was no need for an inquest.
Last night we all hoped Scotland could win, or at least draw with Wales, to see us march on towards the World Cup finals in Mexico. We got the draw, but any joy was short-lived when Jock Stein died following a heart attack at the end of the match. The newspaper headlines today told the sad story that Scottish football's father figure was dead. On the final whistle, Stein collapsed, and later all Scotland mourned the loss of one of the game's greatest names. Last night's 1-1 draw became almost incidental.
Cooper has made it! The most vital kick of his career, and Davy Cooper equalises
changes.
Stein, always the players' man, was never happier than when he conducted training sessions in East Scotland tracksuit. The players looked up to the big man, one of football's greatest ever tacticians. Today, tributes of respect poured in, and for two ex-Celtic players, Stein was quite simply the greatest.
To see him pass away in such a way was very distressing indeed. And obviously I feel a great personal loss, and at this stage I can only sympathise with his immediate family.
Football is the way managers get together and talk, no matter where they are. One of the other jocks in Scottish football, Jock Wallace, always loved a chat with Jock Stein.
I was absolutely stunned at the time. I'd been in a friend's house seeing the game. I came home fully the joys of spring, and the wife shouted through to me in the kitchen that Jock had died, and I just couldn't believe it. I just had to sit down. I was numb. But still a wee bit numb, but a bit better than I was last night. Terrible shock.
What kind of relationship did you have with Jock Stein, Jock?
We were always the friendliest of men. I learned a lot from Jock Stein as a manager when he was Rangers and I was at Hearts, Celtic and I was at Hearts, and we came to Rangers and we became respectful enemies, and I had nothing but respect for the man, and that's about as far as it goes. You know, you can't talk higher than a man in that. I really respected the guy.
I mean, he has been called today the father figure of Scottish football. Would you see him in that stature?
Well, I think he was an elder statesman of Scottish football, and in fact, his record, I don't think he'll ever be equal to 9 leagues, and they won the first man to win the European Cup. He had a tremendous track record and had a tremendous rapport with the players and the press and the punters of this country. Yes, I think that's a fair reflection. He was a father figure in the football sense. He had a tremendous rapport with everybody.
Jock Stein received numerous awards during his career, literally. With the big game at Ibrox. When we spoke to Jock Wallace in Scotsport on Sunday, he had obviously been impressed with Real Osasuna's performance in drawing away from home 2-2 with Barcelona on Saturday night in front of a crowd of 110,000. A European occasion, however, creates a different sort of pressure and calls sometimes for a variation in playing style. Here's how to ball story outside Scotland, of course, this weekend has been the World Cup. The Aztec Stadium in Mexico City has apparently survived intact after those 2 devastating earthquakes, and FIFA Vice President Harry Cavan said today that a decision about whether a 1986 World Cup would go ahead, move to another country or be postponed for a year would not be taken for some time. In New Zealand, meanwhile, New Zealand and Australia have drawn 0-0 in their opening match of the Oceania Group, leaving Israel comfortably on top of the table at this stage after their 2 decisive wins over Taiwan. The next game is New Zealand against Taiwan on October the 5th, and of course Spain and Iceland meet on Wednesday in the final Group 7 match. Sally. Reflect a fine display of goalkeeping from Nicky Walker of Rangers, which was not quite enough, however, to stop Dundee from getting their second away win of the season. From all of us in the Scott Sports Studio, thank you very much for the pleasure of your company. Sally and I look forward to seeing you again in the programme next Sunday. Until that time, goodbye for the present.
Hibs. Manager Jock Wallace said the players weren't happy at Ibrox and the club would listen to offers.
Crowd expected to at Ibrox in Glasgow, where Premier League leaders Rangers take on champions Aberdeen in a match which presents yet another challenge for one of the Iron Men of British football.
Cooper's gone. Passed on by McPherson. Cammy Fraser shot, the deflection. And Rangers go in front. Timmy still has Weir available shots. Decisive header out came from Dave McPherson. Now wide for Simpson. Chance for Stark. A brilliant header from Billy Stark, and Aberdeen are back on level terms.
Looking for McKimmie. Here's Willie Miller. Stark plays it through, there's Frank McDougall, and Aberdeen go in front.
It is very much early days, but in your dressing room, has there been talk about stopping the pretenders to what has been Aberdeen's crown for the past couple of seasons?
Well, I think everybody's wanting to knock us off our throne. They seem to be putting in a lot more effort, the teams that we have played this season against us. But with success, that's something you've got to get used to. Personally, and as far as Aberdeen's concerned, we've never been great starters to the season. I think we grow in strength as the season goes, and certainly I'll be looking for an improvement in my own performance and the rest of the lads. So I think from now on it's the real stuff, and we've just got to get the sleeves rolled up, work a bit harder at our game, and hopefully things will go well for us.
So Aberdeen looking to make it a really dismal week for Rangers. Rangers beaten by Hibs in the Skull Cup on Wednesday, and last Saturday at Ibrox 2 going down to another of their jinx sides, Dundee.
Lafferty! The perfect strike, and Dundee are in front.
Well, I think it's crunch time for Rangers, Jimmy, because they got off to a flyer, haven't they, in the league, but as Martin was saying there, Dundee, Hibs, Aberdeen today, you know, very difficult game, and then Osasuna next week.
It looks that way, but, I mean, it was an opinion north of the border that they were probably a little bit better than they were led to believe, wasn't it? Or,
no, I think people were saying that, OK, they're top of the league, but maybe not as convincing as league leaders should be. You know, they're winning games without really convincing.
So Jock's got to get them at it over the next few games.
Certainly. Now, as you know, we've been keeping...
Welcome to Sports Scene. Sorry we couldn't be with you last week. We were ringed off at the last minute, but...
Kick played in by Gagan. Forbes attacking the ball. A brave header, just wide of goal.
3-0 then, and that was Rangers putting 4 successive defeats behind them, and in the nick of time before Wednesday's Skull Cup semi-final against Hibs. Just the sort of result they needed before tackling a 2-goal deficit in that second leg. Mind you, I'd expect Hibs at Ibrox to be made of sterner stuff than Motherwell, who, to be honest, were terribly disappointing yesterday. Well, former Rangers manager John Greig joins me in looking at this semi-final and the other second leg at Pittodrie between Aberdeen and Dundee United, the Dons starting a goal up. Well, in Edinburgh, they're getting excited already. They haven't been in any final since 1979, and they started the Premier League this year like tortoises. But John Blackley's new side have knocked over Motherwell and Celtic already in the Cup and beat Rangers 2-0 at Easter Road in the first tie. To whet the appetites of the 10,000 or so fans expected to cross the M8, here's one of those newish men in the side, Gordon Jury, here in scoring action. An exit in 10 days after being knocked off the top of the table, the Ibrox fans, well, they won't be happy. And Rangers won't be getting these kind of Premier League gates again for a while. If you have a look at them, any club in Britain, with the possible exception of Liverpool and Manchester United, would be proud of them. And they're not going to happen again unless Rangers keep on winning. So a hard night ahead of Rangers and Jock Wallace. A man who understands more than anyone the way they'll be feeling is with me right now, John Greig, who's been through it all before. Is it a make-or-break night, do you think, for Rangers, John?
Well, certainly it's a very, very important night for them, Ian. Knowing the club, obviously, as well as I do, for Rangers to go to 2 major tournaments within 7 days, as early in the season as this, it certainly puts a lot of pressure on the team next Wednesday night. But I think you'll see a very, very determined Rangers side on Wednesday.
It's a crazy game, isn't it, football? Because Rangers were top of the league a fortnight ago and up in Europe and all that. Everything in the garden was rosy and suddenly it's fallen apart for them. How's that happen in football? And to Rangers, because it happens quite a lot to Rangers, it seems.
Well, it happens to other clubs as well, but when it happens to Rangers, it's always a crisis. Obviously, in the last 4 matches up until yesterday, the results didn't go for them. Up until yesterday, I didn't fancy their chances at all on Wednesday. But that game yesterday obviously must have given some of the players a bit of confidence.
Well, I tell you, the one player it did give an awful lot of confidence to was Ali McCoist, because it dawns on me, John, we can have a look at him in scoring action here again yesterday. It dawns on me, Rangers are going to have to score 3 goals from somewhere, and I'd have thought McCoist is the man most likely to do it.
Well, you either love Ali McCoist or hate him, but I think he's got that reaction to most of the Rangers supporters at the moment. But he is the one guy that I feel is always a potential goal scorer. I think you've seen him in yesterday's match missing a couple of chances, but he's always there. They used to say the same about Alfie Brand, but Alfie Brand put a few goals into the net.
I wonder what Jock Wallace will tell his side beforehand, because having to make up 2 goals and start that far back, do you go all out, or in the classic words, are you patient?
I don't think Rangers can do anything else but go all out Wednesday night. But you see, 2 goals look a tremendous cushion, but 2 goals is okay on paper. But if Rangers were to get a quick goal on Wednesday night, it changes the whole complexion of the game, simply because players then start to panic a little bit, and they don't have those 2 goals to hang back on. And if Rangers get a quick goal, this game could change.
It does dawn on me. I'm not trying to let you off the hook, because I'm going to ask you who you think will go into the final. But I mean, it could be an extra time and penalties case, couldn't it?
I certainly think that the game will go to extra time. And I've got to watch what I'm saying here, because my heart's saying one thing and my head's saying another.
Right, I'll let you have a wee rest for a moment or two while we have a look at the other match. What we must hope for is that the second legs won't be as fierce as the first. And 1 man was sent off and 14 booked in the 2 games, but don't bet on it. Aberdeen start favourites in the second semi, thanks not just to that goal start, but also with the confidence of knowing they can assemble an awful lot of firepower at Pittodrie. Dundee United seem to be making another infuriatingly patchy start again this season, but United were Skull Cup finalists last season and got to Hampden thanks to this stirring stuff at exactly the same stage of the season 12 months ago.
Banyan is there, so is John Holt. The referee watching the 10-yard rule. Bannon takes it! Oh, great play from Bannon. Left Johnston for dead. It's for Sturrock. The turn is brilliant. There's Davy Dodds. And a classic goal from Dundee United. That's for Sturrock. Dodds goes through the middle. Jordan is exposed. Kirkwood! And there's the third.
John, Aberdeen a goal up at home, United no Richard Gough. How do you think that'll go?
I have to take Aberdeen that game, Ian, simply because, although when you look upon it, Dundee United are one of the few sides in Scotland that have been able to go to Aberdeen and win consistently in the last few years. But I can't see it happening this Wednesday, simply because I watched Dundee United last week and they disappointed me. I feel that they're relying very heavily on a tremendous back four, an international back four, and they're carrying the team a bit at the moment. Paul Sturrock's still playing well up front, but he's not getting the support. David Dodds has hardly scored a goal all season.
So, in a word, Aberdeen versus...
Aberdeen versus...
Rangers or Hibs?
Rangers or Hibs. I think it's going to be a very, very tight game at Ibrox.
Thank you, John.
Time of great success, and one player who contributed to many of the club's most memorable triumphs is 80 years of age this month. He's Bob McPhail, whose list of cup medals, league championships and international honours is matched only by his reputation as a player of great determination and outstanding sportsmanship. He won his first Scottish Cup medal with Airdrie. The year was 1924 and he was 18. I asked him first if he thought that the chance to go to Ibrox soon after that would lead to so many other great things.
No, I was quite content to play with Airdrie because they were a very good team at that time. I don't know, I can remember them name for name.
And I think I'm right in saying that Hughie Gallagher was of that vintage, wasn't it?
Yes, oh, they had a lot of personalities at that time. They had an old fella, Jock Ewart, who had been my father, and Ewart and his Dick and McQueen, Tommy Preston, McDougall and Bobby Benny. And then they had an old fella who could have been my father again, Jimmy Reid and Willie Russell, and the famous, or infamous, Hughie Gallagher,
yes,
and myself and Somerville. I thought that was a great team.
It's often said that when a provincial club like Airdrie wins the Scottish Cup, and we've seen it with clubs like St Mirren and Dunfermline of fairly recent times, that it really is almost more special than when a big club like Rangers or Celtic wins the Cup. Would you think that's a fair comment?
That is right. I can remember going from Ibrox, by the way, that Cup final was played at Ibrox.
Yes, the last one, I think, to be played outside Hampden, yes.
And they had a bus, I think, at Cope Bridge, an open top bus, and we went in like royalty into Airdrie and everyone cheering, streets line. I can always remember that more vividly than some of the Rangers ones. Because you were really expected to win with Rangers, whereas with Airdrie it was an event.
Had you much doubt in your mind about making the decision to become a Rangers player when you were approached?
No, no doubt. As a matter of fact, Airdrie had it all lined up with Everton that I was to go to Everton. And I thought, if I go to Everton, I won't get any more money because Rangers were paying £8 a week at that time. And Everton in England, the English team, they paid the same. So I thought, I've £8 in England, and by the time you sent home something to mother and father and had to pay for digs, I was going to be out of pocket. And unknown to anyone else, there was a wee laddie for the scout for Rangers, Alec Young, and he had been keeping tabs on me and telling me just what to do and what not to do. And as I say, Everton and Airdrie had almost everything fixed up but my signature. And when I told them that I wasn't going to Everton, there was a great stramash. But I had the security of Rangers at my back.
The statistics of your career at Ibrox are quite incredible. They lasted from, I think, 1926 to 1940. You played something like 466 games. You won 9 league championships, 6 cup medals. What was so special about the Rangers side of that era? What was it that made it so good? And you can be as modest as you like about this one.
No, I found that when I was playing with Airdrie, you played and enjoyed the game on a Saturday. But it didn't matter a great deal whether you won or lost. You wanted to win, naturally. But when you played with Rangers, I found you had to work. That was the difference. Yes. Playing with Airdrie and working with Rangers, you had to work to win because everyone was out to beat you.
Rain keeps down the usual big attendance at Hampden Park, Glasgow for the titbit of the Scottish soccer season. But nevertheless, 87,000 turn out to see Glasgow Rangers and Hamilton Academicals fight out the final of the Scottish FA Cup. Glasgow Rangers take the field. The famous Ibrox team are again Scottish League champions. Here come Hamilton Academicals in their hooped jerseys. It's the first time the Lanarkshire club have been finalists since 1911, but that didn't alter their fighting spirit. The Ackies are not at all overawed by the reputation of their opponents, and in spite of lack of experience, strike their fast, progressive game. Their half-back line in particular repeatedly broke up attacks by the Rangers' aggressive and powerful inside-forward trio. Hamilton play up enthusiastically. Morgan, their goalkeeper, gave a magnificent display throughout the afternoon. The speed and footwork of the Glasgow Rangers forward line began to tell in the end. Smith, the centre forward, gave the Ibrox club the lead. After the interval, Harrison equalised for the Ackies, but Smith got a second goal from a header to give Rangers the cup by 2-1 for the 9th time. Incidentally, this triumph gave the Royal Blues the double event of cup and championship for the second year in succession.
You use the phrase work. I wonder if you feel that the modern day players do work as hard as you did in those days in the 30s?
I don't think so. I think the load is spread more generally just now than it was. The inside men were known as the workhorses, and so were the wing halves. They were the men who did the fetching and carrying. and just now it's more evenly divided. But I don't think that it has improved the game as a spectacle.
I also wonder if you feel it a valid comment that the nature and the shape and style of the modern game tends to eliminate the personality aspect of play, because you mentioned Hughie Gallagher at Airdrie. You played at a time in the 30s when Celtic had Jimmy McDory, Rangers had a handful of personalities as well. People at that time seemed more free to express their individual abilities. Do you think that's valid?
Well, they were allowed to, because you had wingers. And what was more exciting than the like of Alan Morton, Sandy Archibald, Paddy Connolly, Adam McLean, and all these famous wingers, tearing up and down the wing, and the balls coming across in goalmouth, skirmishes and all this business. And I think it was more exciting.
We'll start the news desk this afternoon.
Of course, at a regular time of 5:30, but before that we have a midweek special. It's Scarl League Cup semi-final night at Pittodrie with Aberdeen and Dundee United, and at Ibrox Stadium it's Rangers against Hibernian. We'll have lots of action for you when you join us on Wednesday night at 11:30. Until then, from Sally McNair, Ian Archer, nice to see Ian back again, and myself, it's goodbye for the present with another look at the goals from Motherwell which set the scene for Wednesday night.
So the colour and the people that bring so much to this tremendous game of snooker. Well, now we're going back to the final.
Tonight, in fact, we look at the two big sports stories of the week so far. The World Cup tie in Tel Aviv, which has turned the Oceania group upside down, and the League Cup semi-final ties, which give Hibs and Aberdeen a date at Hampden later this month. First, the controversial match in the Ramat Gan Stadium in Tel Aviv between Israel and Australia. The game with Israel in pale blue was punctuated throughout by tackles like this, and after protesting too much, Australian coach Frank Arok was ordered off the bench by the Italian referee Luigi Agnolin. Then the next player in the wards was the Australian goalkeeper Terry Greedy. He got a knee in the face and eventually had to be carried off. He took no further part in the match, and at half-time it was 0-0. Australia then won the match in a decisive and blistering 5-minute spell just after the break. Skipper John Kosmina rounded the goalkeeper here to make it 1-0, then got to the end of a brilliant cross only 3 minutes later to head a superb second goal. 2-0 to Australia. The uncompromising tackling continued, but Israel never gave up. In the 65th minute, after yet another booking, they got the goal which put them back in the match. Zaya Arnili works a nice 1-2 here to score, but 2-1 to Australia was how it finished. And after the game, the Australian coach Frank Arok was quoted as saying, "We played it tough. Israel played it dirty." Well, the result means that Australia have now taken 3 points from 2 away games. They've still to play Taiwan twice, both games in Australia, and with home games to come as well against New Zealand and Israel, must be favourites to meet Scotland in a two-leg playoff for a place in Mexico. Watching the game in Tel Aviv was the SFA's Director of Coaching, Andy Roxburgh, who arrived back in Glasgow late this afternoon. Andy, how tough a match was it?
Well, the first half was certainly tough. Both teams are accusing each other of starting the rough stuff. The Australians are a very strong team physically, and they go into the tackle hard, and the Israelis reacted to this. You know, they started to show the sole of the boot and so on. So the first half is better forgotten about, I think. The second half is when we got a little bit of football.
Which of the two sides you saw in action in Tel Aviv would make harder opposition for Scotland?
Well, I think both of them would cause us problems away from home. The Israelis are very skillful and fast. The Australians are well organised, good teamwork, work very, very hard for each other, and they play a very negative system. You know, we play counter-attack, 5 men at the back, and for different reasons they'll both be hard away from home. So there's no doubt that the home match is the key one. The game at Hampden will be vitally important to us, that our team play well and the spectators get out there and support us.
And of course Scotland will continue their World Cup build-up at Hampden next Wednesday with a match against East Germany. Recorded highlights, by the way, exclusively in Scott Sport the same evening. Well, this week it's been the Skol League Cup semi-finals with Hibernian manager John Blackclay steering his side to the final at Hampden on October the 27th, where they'll meet Aberdeen. Here are the goals from both games, including Davy Cooper's amazing free kick and the unique full-time jubilation which linked Hibs with their ecstatic fans.
McDougall gets the ball wide for start. Hewitt sets off on a run. The United defence is now stretched with McDougall and Simpson waiting in the middle. There's McDougall. 23.5 minutes into the second half. Frank McDougall gets his 8th goal of the season. The pace of John Hewitt set up the chance, and McDougall doesn't need to have any more room than that to leave McAlpine helpless.
And from this position, Davy Cooper can be a very, very dangerous striker of the ball indeed. Stay out. 33 minutes. The magic left foot of Davy Cooper brings the game to life. Hibs pay a severe penalty for the free kick. 20 yards out, top corner, bang, 1-0. Dawson, referee looking at his watch again, that's it. Hibs are in the final of the Skol League Cup. Jubilation in the dugout. Alan Rough is absolutely delighted. What a night for the Hibs fans. So it's Aberdeen versus Hibs in the Skol League Cup final at Hampden on Sunday, October the 27th, and you'll be able to see the whole match live exclusively on Scottish television. And there was more good news for Hibs today with the announcement that their striker, 19-year-old Gordon Dury, had been named Fine Fair Young Football Personality of the Month for September. He's currently the top scorer in the League Cup, and of course Hibs meet Aberdeen at Easter Road tomorrow for a cup final rehearsal in the Premier League.
And may the best team win, and I know who I mean. Thanks very much, Arthur. I wonder what
criticism today from shareholders at the club's annual general meeting in Glasgow. But the manager was assured that his job is safe until the end of the season and that money is available to buy several new players. Rangers' good run early in the season has given way to a series of disappointing defeats, and there was a grim mood at today's meeting.
The timing of the AGM couldn't have been worse for Rangers. Just 3 weeks ago, they were riding high at the top of the Premier League. But a succession of defeats has seen them lose their place at the top of the league to Celtic and go out of Europe and the Skol Cup. After the 90-minute session behind closed doors, Chairman John Payton acknowledged there had been strong criticism of the team performance.
The shareholders weren't too happy about the performance of the team. We let them know that the board weren't 100% either. It's a case that we've got to go and try and get new players to strengthen the team. We're not that far away, but we're still not 100%.
Is there money there for new players?
Yes, there's money there for new players.
How many new players do you know? Or?
That's Mr. Wallace's decision. We don't involve ourselves in that. He's the man that says what players he wants and how much he wants to offer for them.
How much criticism was there of Mr. Wallace?
There was some slight criticism. After all, the man's only been here 2 years, and he said it would take 3 years. So we've got to give him that time.
Rangers fans are obviously hungry for success.
Yes, same as the board, that. Same as the board.
If this meeting had been held 3 weeks ago, I suppose it would have been a different picture.
Everybody would have been delighted, but even then, there was hints that the team wasn't as strong as it should be.
Tempers also flared outside the meeting as long-time fan and shareholder Andy Cameron raised the issue of the club's attitude on signing Roman Catholics.
And why, did they not come out and be honest about it? And just say, look, we're not signing Catholics and that's it. Because they've not signed any. They said about 7 years ago, they said they've not signed any. And there's several players in Scotland who are Catholics who are good players. I don't care. I don't care if they want to sign Catholics. That's all right. Fair enough. That's all right. We've enough trouble with other Cameron, mate. I don't care if who they sign. I want to see Rangers at the top of the league. Keep it for your hips. Well, don't come then. I will come. We'll come because it's where shareholders stay. But that's what you're there for, isn't it? You're entitled to an opinion. Exactly. Can you honestly tell me that a player's ability has got anything to do with his religion? Aye. Oh, I can't see that at all. What? What do you know support Celtic for it? Because I'm a Rangers supporter. I don't want to go and support Celtic.
But Mr. Payton set the record straight.
That was hitting the head once again that we have no discrimination policy at Ibrox.
As he left the meeting, manager Jock Wallace refused to comment on the criticisms of his team's performance.
Glasgow Rangers are a club at the crossroads. On the playing front, the season is already virtually over for the Light Blues. Defeats by Hearts in the Scottish Cup and by lowly Motherwell at Fir Park last Saturday have left the Ibrox side languishing amongst the also-rans in the race for Scottish football's major honours. Rangers are a club who are used to being winners, and the lack of success has prompted a crisis at the club. Lawrence Marlborough, who lives in California, is the power behind Rangers in 1986, and yesterday, when 3 directors of the board quit, a power battle had obviously rocked the Ibrox boardroom. However, boardroom changes are far from being at the forefront of the minds of the legions of Rangers supporters. Quite simply, they demand success on the playing field, and the poor playing performances have fueled speculation on the immediate future of Rangers manager Jock Wallace and his backroom staff. Speculation is the key word at Ibrox these days, with rumour and counter-rumour fueling the belief that yesterday's events are merely the tip of the iceberg. For instance, there are strong rumours tonight that former manager John Gregg has been asked to return to Ibrox. But a short time ago, he told us he had not been approached, and after being connected with the club for 25 years, he wouldn't comment on speculation. With me now is sports correspondent Jimmy Sanderson, who I guarantee will comment on speculation. First of all, what happens to those 3 directors, Messrs Simpson, Dawson and Robinson? Did they jump or were they pushed?
Oh, they were pushed. I mean, Mr Marlborough lives near Reno, Nevada. That's the divorce capital of America, and he's divorced to 3 gentlemen. And to say there were no recriminations is a lie, because obviously there are recriminations. I certainly think they were pushed. But may I just say this? I think Rangers have been firing blanks for years. Now they're firing real bullets, and not before the time. They're standing up to be counted. And I hope some of the new board will speak to me, because certainly some of the old ones didn't.
So what does this actually mean? What does this new slimline board full of so-called Marlborough's men mean for the club?
Well, you've got the alliteration right. It is Marlborough's men without any doubt at all. They will do what Lawrence Marlborough says. And I travelled a long time with Lawrence Marlborough's grandfather, John Lawrence, who really loved the club. And there's no doubt at all that Mr. Marlborough has told what he wants, and if they don't carry it out, he'll get someone else. Now, let's just say this. If there's anyone left in the board